Lauren Chen. She's here. Virtually again, as I say. No? What? You're still waiting? Oh, yeah, I got a thumbs up. There you are. How you doing, Lauren?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show. I've heard from our staff that you were on with the great Gavin McInnes a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm always happy to talk to Gavin. He's a hoot and holler. I'm not sure I trust him enough to go live with him, but he's a fun time.
He is a very, very funny, fun guy. I've always said I think his biggest crime is that he's too good of a satirist and a person that makes parody. He's very good at it to the point where a lot of people, they don't quite understand it, and they get a little carried away with what Gavin says and does.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with someone like Gavin, I mean, the main part of his whole show and his whole persona is to entertain and get people to think. He's one of the few people who actually does both at the same time. And
Yeah.
I think for a lot of people out there, they're just like, they take it at face value. They can't understand that he wants to have fun and talk about serious issues. And I feel bad for the guy. He's been misrepresented a lot.
Terrible, but a lot of people have. I mean, we hear about cancel culture, but that's too nice a word for it. It really is taking away people's rights just arbitrarily. We've seen this happen. I've seen it happen with me many times with Gavin and other people who have a strong voice, strong personalities. It seems like these people are just getting their rights to stand up on that soapbox in the middle of the town and voice an opinion. It's disgusting, I think, and we're only seeing it get worse.
I think you're right. It is getting worse. And I'm not for things like people losing their jobs over social media posts or political opinions, which we've already seen. But I feel like it's gotten to the point where there's so much vitriol that, I mean, look at what happened with Rush Limbaugh or John McCain. These people out there were celebrating the death of people they don't like. I mean, it's gotten that far. It's not just these people want you to lose your jobs. They actually might celebrate if you died, which is terrible to think of.
Yeah, we see a lot of that these days. And if it's not to that extreme, it's just your basic trolling. Anyone that is popular online, we see people that have a lot of followers on various social media platforms will be the ones that are getting constantly shit on, if I may say, by trolls. And it's the anonymity, it's the ability to attack somebody online anyway with impunity, and that's another thing that I dub disgusting. But it happens, and it takes. I think it takes a long time to get used to it. If you're a personality an online personality, it takes a long time to get used to the crap people will throw at you.
Oh, definitely. Because I mean, I remember the first time I ever published a video and I had the comments on, and the first time
Oh
someone
boy.
wrote something mean to me, and looking back on it, it wasn't even that bad. I was like, how could they? Like, how could someone? Because people don't talk to you like that face to face,
No,
right?
no,
They would
no.
never. I'm not saying they don't think it because I'm probably sure they think it, but we have that filter. But online, that's totally gone. But you're right. You get desensitized to it. I mean, I get called this or that like every other minute
Of course.
online. It's not great that you have to deal with it, but you do get used to it.
What do they say? Pretty. Like I say, I turned it around.
No, I get called an Uncle Chan, which is something
Oh
new.
my
It's,
God.
I mean, it's clever. Uncle Chan, internalized misogyny, just in addition to the whole like B word, C word. Yeah, they can get pretty creative. I have to give them that at least.
Yeah. What do you think about the it's not even a modern feminist movement. I don't know where the feminists are these days. They seem to have been pushed so far down into the group of other people that demand much more attention and pandering to. But it doesn't seem like feminists are really stepping up when they need to for that old school version of feminists where it really is for the good of women and what they want to accomplish in life and not this attention-seeking nonsense that we're seeing from a lot of groups.
Yeah, and it's so funny. I mean, I don't know if you have those people in your life who are just not interested in politics, like the
Yeah, it's
normies.
amazing.
it's try explaining what feminism is about now to those people. They're like, oh yeah, women's rights, what's wrong with that? And it's like, no, we got like 76 genders now. You're not allowed to say they're two biological sexes. It's totally gone off the rails. And that's, with my family, a lot of what I try to explain to them, because it's not like the simple, oh, how about women vote? What a quaint idea. No, it's gone above and beyond.
Yeah, it really has. And I think, because I know the people you're talking about, I have people in my life, friends and family and whatnot, that aren't really political, or they get their information from this news media that is just a complete joke at this point.
Yeah.
But they grew up and lived their life thinking the news is what gives people the correct information. So they think that when they talk about women's rights, they're talking about, feminism of the old days, working, getting jobs and voting, things like that, equal housing for women, like things that were taken care of when people said, yeah, you have a right as an American to do all these things, regardless of gender. That covers everything, really. You don't need a special bill that says for women or for minorities or for gays, or it's covered under the fact that you're an American citizen and you have a right to all those things. But people love the subcategories and they love being more special than somebody else. But the feminist movement, when I don't see them stepping in, as far as the trans athletes go, that to me is just fear. Like, that's pure intimidation and fear that they don't want to come off and get that transphobic label, when the truth of the matter is, what are we seeing? We're seeing these women that were biological men trouncing women in sports.
And that's what's kind of confusing about feminists now, because we have one group of feminists who are called TERFs by the other feminists who actually believe, hey, being a woman, there is something biological about that affects your experience as a woman. And like, hey, there's nothing wrong with saying women only bathrooms, women only sports and stuff like that. But then you have this other branch, which unfortunately seems to be the bigger mainstream branch, who's all into this, no, being a woman is just how you feel. So weirdly enough, now the mainstream feminist position when it comes to something like trans people in sports, just to say, no, biological males should be able to, I don't know if you like watch MMA, get in the ring and absolutely kick the crap out of a female, or else you hate women. And it's like, whoa, I feel like we may have lost the plot somewhere. And it's frustrating because they've redefined feminism such that now if you say, hey, I think, sex separation in sports exists for a reason, they'll call you sexist because of that. Anti-woman. And it's like, what? How did this happen? But they're smart. They're smart about it. They've really done a good job controlling the narrative.
Amazing. The various scarlet letters they could slap on a person these days is unlimited. You think you're saying something, it's like, uh-oh, the feminists are going to get on me for saying that. And then you're like, wait, the gays got it? What? Like, you don't even know what group is going to attack you for what you've said. And that just goes to show how disjointed the whole thing is. You kind of need some cohesion here and an ability to distinguish what's legitimate from what is complete horse shit. But if you call people's beliefs horse shit, you're in trouble too. So we really, I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I see it just getting worse and not better.
I think you're right. And I mean, I've kind of been black-pilled, for lack of a better term, about this because not only have they gone just so far from reality, it's shocking how quickly this has happened too. Right? Because I remember I started making videos about this maybe 5 years ago. And at the time, I had all of these people say, this is just on Tumblr. This isn't real life. No one thinks this is outside of like 5 forums online. Well, now, I mean, we have people like AOC who are actually in government. We have like government documents saying Latinx. They're trying to ban gendered terms in Congress. This happened really, really fast. And I don't think most people realize it.
Yeah, there was this weird thing that happened where we were being fed stuff and told to tolerate things. You might recall the old days where we just had to be tolerant. Remember that? Hey, be tolerant. And it's like, okay, that means to tolerate. I think I could tolerate something. It doesn't mean I need to embrace it, or I could not agree with it, but I could still be tolerant. Now, tolerant is not what? That's not good enough. You need to jump up and down and celebrate everything we throw at you, or else you're the ist or phobe that we designate you. And again, like you said, I don't, or like I said earlier, I don't see anything stopping this. And it happened because we looked at the earlier things and just went, all right, what could it hurt? And if you spoke up, you caught shit, so you just let it go. It was easier. And now we're at a point where it's just that, we're at a point where we can't kind of get rid of it anymore. It's just going to keep getting worse.
Yeah, and that's what I've been trying to figure out is, well, how do we find a way out of this?
Yeah.
Because it is true to say, right, the people who think there are unlimited genders and you just pick whatever you want and hey, little kid, let's pump you full of hormone blockers, no problem.
Yeah.
They are the minority. I mean, if you take a poll, average people aren't going to think that, but they've really managed to insert themselves into all of these different positions of power, right? So it's like, how do we get these people out of a position where they're able to dictate these types of things, right? Because I mean, for a lot of the policies that are being passed, like what kids are now learning in schools, for example, that never went up for a vote. Parents weren't asked, hey, drag queen kids reading, or reading to your kids, awesome or very awesome. They just kind of did it. And it's like, we need to take control because, like I said, they are the minority, we are the majority. Why are we letting these people dictate our lives?
Yeah. Who would you say your audience is watching your videos?
Well, I mean, I have analytics on YouTube, so I have a pretty good idea. The biggest age group is 25 to 35, predominantly male, like 80% male, which is, I think, partly because YouTube is like more male viewers to begin with, and then
I think so.
Yeah, I'm more on the conservative side as well, so I think that skews it male. But I'm also I'm impressed that they're also like teenagers watching as well. They're not as big a part of the audience, but it's like, hey, I'm hip with the kids. I try to get a TikTok account. Yeah.
Hey, kids.
Fellow youths. Yeah, no, but Zoomers they're kind of crazy. They're really they're politically polarized. I don't know if like how into their whole zeitgeist you are, but I was on TikTok and they're really funny. They're really smart. They're really sharp, but it's like, half of the people on there are calling Trump a fascist and the other half of them are like, well, that's good. It's like, whoa, you guys.
Yeah.
You're a whole headache waiting to happen.
I see when we were just scanning your page that you have our illustrious Assistant Secretary of Health up there. A couple of times in the videos. That's an interesting story right there.
Gift from Pennsylvania.
Yeah. I really when the confirmation hearing was going on and Rand Paul really laid it out, like, hey, answer this question, and we weren't getting an answer. That lack of answer is the answer. This person is completely for giving hormones and perhaps even surgical procedures to children to try to turn them into a different sex. It's bizarre that we've reached the point, like you said, that these people are actually in our system now.
And I think that what I talk about a lot on our videos is that I hate to admit it, but the slippery slope is kind of real because, when it came to this whole trans issue, I think so many people are willing to say, yeah, if you're an adult, live the way you choose, like tolerate. Whatever, go nuts. Yeah, that's, you do you. And, eventually then they started kind of saying like, all right, well, maybe children are trans too. And that a lot of people were like, I don't know about it. But then they were like, oh, don't worry about it. It's just a social transition. We're just going to let them wear the clothes and stuff. And now it's like, actually, we're doing medical interventions like the puberty blockers. And if you listen to, I forget the person's name, but a lot of trans activists are saying, well, we hormone blockers and puberty stuff. Yeah, but we don't do actually surgery on minors yet. That's the next step, though, right? I mean, we've already gotten to the point where we're talking about trans children, a term which I think is completely manufactured. You have confused children that maybe when they grow up will decide to do this or that, but a kid is not trans. It's like a vegan cat. No. As Blair White says, who's making the decisions. And yeah, I mean, bottom surgery for toddlers. That's what's coming next.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. And the fact that it's even something that can be brought up without people going nuts to the person, you have to entertain it, or you're the problem.
Right. Or you're the crazy one.
Yeah, you're the
extremist.
crazy one for saying that perhaps a child is too young to make these decisions,
Yeah.
and that perhaps during puberty, when the hormones start pumping through the body, that psychological changes are made, and a person that may have as a child related more to the other sex just completely grows up being very happy and pleased with the sex they are.
Right. And that's what studies have shown. And I'm all for more studies being done.
Sure,
More
why not?
information is never bad, but studies have shown that if you are a kid who experiences gender dysphoria, like 80% of you around are going to grow out of it. It's not a new phenomenon for, preteens or teens to have identity crises or body issues. That's not new. I think what we're also seeing now is that as much as the left likes to say, progressives, like, oh, we're breaking gender barriers. Now, I see stories all the time where this parents is like, yeah, I knew my little boy was actually a little girl when he wanted to play with princess dresses. And it's like, is that breaking down gender barriers to say that you actually have to be a girl to like those things? Like, why can't he just like princess dresses? And what all those tomboys out there from my generation, I swear, if we grew up now, we would be transitioned by the time we're 13 into trans men. Crazy.
I think another aspect of it is a new form of Munchausen syndrome by proxy, where you'd have a parent that would keep the child sick because they get a lot of attention and sympathy with a sick child. They get to go to the hospital. It gives them a social life and puts the attention on them. Now, this does the same thing. When a parent can go around and go, oh, your son, very nice, very good, but my son is trans. And it's such a popular thing to be that the parent is going to look for any excuse or fabricate excuses to push the child into this direction that is, again, just like Munchausen, child abuse.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar with the story of like Desmond is amazing.
Oh, yes. Little Desmond dancing at a strip club and whatever that was in front of trans people shoving dollar bills down his clothes.
Right.
Just abominable.
The progressive media is all over that poor child's mother, right? She's hailed as this paragon of modernity and progress and tolerance because of that. And it's true. There was an entire documentary about, quote unquote, trans kids, and the parents are painted very sympathetically. Look how progressive and tolerant you are for doing this. Some of the mothers get speaking tours and book deals. And it's like, all right, we're actually applauding people for abusing their children.
Applauding people for abusing their children. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're applauding things in general, things that are not looked at in a favorable light by the majority of this country. Some criminal behavior. There are certain practices that we look at and say that's detestable. And that's being put up on a pedestal. And classic, old school families, a family structure, a work ethic, being articulate in some cases, things like that are looked at as these terrible systemic problems that we have in this country. And it really is just a crazy ass backwards world. And like I said earlier, if somebody comes forward and brings it up and says something, they're looked at as the nut or the bad person. So with that, I don't see any real light at the end of the tunnel again. So it's kind of depressing to think we don't really have any solutions.
What I've kind of put forward many times, and I think it's unfortunately one of the most actionable and practical solutions, Michael Malice, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, he talks about it too.
I know
National
Michael.
divorce.
I know Michael. He's a great guy.
He's amazing. He's awesome. And the thing is, like, anytime I say, hey, how about just we balkanize? You do you, we do us. If you want to live in some sort of trans communist utopia, you go for it. Not really my thing. People freak out. And it's funny because I know these people don't want to live in a country with me. They don't like me. So it's not like they have they have some like deep sense of patriotism and citizenship bond with me. But the thing is, like, these people don't want the rest of us to leave because they love controlling us. That's the only reason that they're against the idea, is because they know they won't be able to subjugate us. It's not because they like us or feel any fraternal instinct toward us.
Yeah, that's another one of these weird paradox that are going on, is that we constantly are hearing now from subgroups and groups and fractions of those groups that want to be treated as a group. They don't care about America. They don't care about the unity of this country. Yet when you mention that and say, perhaps we aren't meant to all live together, maybe we could go off into our own. It's like, oh, white supremacy, or you're this, or you're that. It's like, but you're every day,
you're the one saying
you're
that.
dividing yourself up into a separate group that wants to do separate things. I just saw something, I guess, Columbia University. They had a whole list of the graduation and
Racially
when the
segregated.
different racial and ethnic graduation ceremonies will be. It's like, don't you understand that is segregation? That's worse, because you're actually doing it than even suggesting perhaps we should live in our own separate segments of society. So the hypocrisy there is astounding. Hypocrisy, though, is just, you can't open your eyes
everywhere.
without seeing it. Yeah.
No, and that's such a great point, because, and I really noticed this when it came to the election last year with people like Kamala Harris, being kind of propped up as the VP. We had all of these like women and these people of color saying, finally, government will represent me. And it's like, hang on, if you need someone to look like you in order to represent your interests specifically in government, why are we even trying a multicultural society in the first place? And don't get me wrong, I don't think that. I don't think that at all. But it's like, if you people think that, right? If you progressives, frankly, you racists and sexists think that, then why don't you go and have your like little mosaic society where the groups don't interchange, and the rest of us who think that our character and values are more important than the way we look like, then we can do our own thing and maybe we would all be happier.
Yeah, Kamala Harris is a great example of that, because every time I hear her speak about being the vice president, her dreams and aspirations and goals as the vice president of this country, especially, she'll say whatever she wants to say, and then she goes, and especially women and women of color. And it's like, you go, that isn't a vice president for everybody. You're specifically pointing out people that you might gravitate toward or treat extra, give a little extra something special. That's not how you're supposed to present yourself. You're the vice president of the United States of America for all of its citizens. And just saying that, again, should cover everybody. But to specifically point out, and she does this every time, and especially, and we will make sure that, pick another group, excels at the, it's like, it makes the majority of this country, and I believe they are sane. Oddly enough, I believe the majority of this country has some semblance of sanity. I don't think they agree with that. And I think they look at what she says and says, we're Americans. Why don't you treat it like you're the vice president of America?
Yeah, and it's this rhetoric that I think is kind of increasingly making things like racial tensions, class tensions, whatever you would call it, just tensions worse in the country, and making things more divisive. Because if you look at Trump's campaign, which was by no means perfect, but he actually made significant inroads with pretty much every group that traditionally goes left. Was that like white women, Black people, Hispanic people, whatever it is. And the reason why he did that is because he put forward this idea of this pan-Americanism, right? It's like, you might not have been born here, you might have a different skin color, but ultimately we are all Americans, and we're going to fight for you as an American, not as a woman, as a Muslim or whatever, but as an American. And I think, we can have societies where we're different, but we can't be more different than we are unified. Because then that doesn't work. It falls apart if all you ever talk about is the differences, and you really brush aside or even dismiss the unificators, whatever.
Yeah, we always look at America like, we've heard this stupid melting pot and all those words they use back when I was growing up in the 1850s. But they always told us that it was a nation of immigrants, and you heard the stories from your relatives. This one came over with a dime in his pocket and a dream. And the one thing all of these immigrants had in common was this desire to be an American.
Right.
Now, what they brought from their culture was great for the collective of America. That's why the country for so many years was just this amazing place. All those different cultures, the good parts of these cultures came in and people were united. You had a guy from Italy and a guy from Spain and a guy from Russia, and they could look at each other and go, we're Americans. We have different cultures, different backgrounds, but we have that commonality. Without commonality, we are a clusterfuck because there's really nothing else that holds us together. We don't have this unity of the fact that we have, one head on our body and go, hey, you're a one head guy. Like we have to be Americans, and there has to be a certain pride in that. And there has to be a certain understanding that some of your cultural traditions have to be left behind because they don't fit in this society that we've made that we call America. And people nowadays really don't seem to want to bite on that one.
Yeah, no, they definitely don't like that, which is it's kind of ironic the way that whole conversation unfolds, because I hear all the time, anytime I talk about, if you come here as an immigrant, which, I have immigrants in my family, my father is one, I've immigrated different places myself. I don't have a problem with that, but you need to have common values. And, the first response people will say, like, what even is an American or Western value? Like, what does that even mean?
Right.
It's like, I don't know. How about no honor killings? Like, how about it's okay to be gay, you're not going to be stoned? We laugh, but that's not a given in some places. And I feel like it kind of should be if you're going to come here. Like, I feel like that's the most basic thing we can screen for. But for some reason, a lot of progressives don't want to do that, and it's kind of ironic to see all these feminists like really come out and force for the people who would be oppressing them if they were in a different country. It's ironic.
It's just recently, I guess yesterday, maybe the day before, we heard that the Vatican will not give their blessing to same-sex couples. And Don Lemon over on CNN and Elton John has spoken out about it and saying that this is ridiculous in this day and age. How can the church still not accept it? And it's like, okay, cool. Now do Islam. Go ahead. Now talk about how Islam doesn't recognize same-sex marriages. Not only not recognize them, they will recognize them. And then, you're going to have your problems. But that's never addressed. Again, they pick these they know they can bash Christianity and Catholicism, and they know they can't touch certain other religions. And to me, unless you're willing to really speak out on all of it, you can't just pick and choose. So I doubt you're ever going to see Don Lemon talk about how intolerant Islam is to gays. So then he shouldn't bring up any religion that's intolerant to gays. You're not being honest.
Right. I think that's a good point. And what I just couldn't understand was it was almost like these people were shocked that the Vatican was saying this. And it's like, I kind of am surprised that the Pope was actually kind of coming out in support of that, because I'm not a fan, but it's like you have all of these progressives who clearly know nothing about Catholicism saying like, how could you do this? And then you have Don Lemon going on, or what is it, The View, saying God's not there to judge you. It's like, I feel like you've read a different Bible than you got. Because the Bible makes it pretty clear that
God will judge you.
Yes. Yeah. But it's fine if you don't agree with it. And Don Lemon, I think he's engaged or married. Don't expect him to agree with it, but don't act as if, A, this is something new, or B, you have any authority to dictate what Catholics should or should not believe, or what does or does not make sense for the Catholic religion. He has no idea what he's talking about.
People are so, I guess they're so comfortable with and used to corporations and other broadcasting companies, whatever it may be, just instantly buckling to this pressure. If some CEO says something stupid, they have to go through the apology hoops and the counseling and this and still you could just crap all over them and throw them out. And I think people have gotten so used to that, the entitlement of their argument. They're like, no, that's not right, and you need to apologize. And they expect the same thing from the church. And that's hilarious. Like, this is especially if you're a staunch Catholic, let's say, you're never accepting homosexuality. It's just kind of what the religion, how they've interpreted the religion. And that's what it says. And to think you could just change things like that, like you have the ability to speak for God in what the belief
Yeah.
system says he believes in. Now, I don't believe any of the nonsense. I think if you're a good person and you're with somebody of the same sex, God bless, if I may say so. And I don't think, you're going to get an almighty, all-knowing being to smite you because you love somebody. I can't see that happening. So I don't agree with it. But you're not getting by-the-book people to change their mind like you do Coca-Cola or Taco Bell because somebody said something
Yeah.
stupid.
I mean, these people are so used to being able to bully to get their way, whatever it may be,
that
they're surprised when they come across someone who you cannot bully. And I think it's actually kind of ironic that they have all this outrage directed to the church, because I'm Baptist, I'm an evangelical, but my husband is Catholic. We have conversations about that difference all the time. But this Pope has kind of really bent over backwards to satisfy the left. He's been extremely, saying anti-capitalist stuff, pro-open borders, environmentalism. This Pope has been pretty much as progressive as a Pope can be without literally being Anita Sarkeesian or something. And even then, I think people should keep in mind that the Vatican did, of course, say, but that doesn't mean you should treat people who are gay with disrespect or cruelly, because the old disclaimer, hate the sin, love the sinner. But even then, it's not enough. And I think it just goes to show, if you give them an inch, they'll try to take a mile.
Always.
And if there were to be a Pope who would bend on this, it would probably be this one. But I hope just someone needs to tell these people no.
It
wasn't their parents, but somebody.
No has to be said, and it's got to be adhered to. Like, people have to really put their foot down because no has been said a few times, and the person that says no is the villain, and then it goes right where the person that said no said it was going to go. It's so to read people's tweets from years ago, and you come up with some of these, and it's like, oh my God, this person nailed it and said, you let this happen, and then this will happen, and this person's looking to do this, and then you look and say, yeah, they were absolutely right.
Yeah, they had a point.
Yeah, and it just continues and keeps going. Lauren, thanks so much, man. Very cool hanging out and talking to you. Anything you wanna let the viewers know about before we let you go?
Yeah, sure. So if you want to check out my videos, you can find me on YouTube. Just search Lauren Chen. If the YouTube gods are being nice to me that day, I should pop up. Social media, I'm at the Lauren Chen on Telegram. It's the Twitter, Instagram. I'm also on Rumble. There's 500 social media sites nowadays, so it's kind of hard to keep up. But I would love to have them follow me. And if you didn't like anything that I've said, go ahead, social media, follow me, and then you can yell at me about it, and we'll just take it from there.
Easy as that. Lauren, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you.
Take it easy. Here goes Lauren. She's very cute. Smart and cute. Gonna love that.